Hey guys, it's Odyssey here and we're back with another top 5 tips video, and today we're looking at Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm a few hours into the game right now, but there are a few things that I wish I knew before starting the game. Especially tip number 1 guys, if there's one thing that I would like to have known beforehand, that's the one. Now, there's no spoilers in here guys, so don't worry, I'm not going to ruin the story for you. So, without further ado, here are my top 5 tips for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Let's roll that intro. Tip number 5. The best defense in a boat is fast attacks. Okay, let's start off with the boats guys. The map is set in Greece, so as well as the mainland, there's a large collection of islands, which gives the game a big section on naval travel and combat. When you first take on an enemy in ship-to-ship combat, you may be tempted to pick your shots, keep your distance, and brace yourself for their inevitable occasional rams. There is a better way to do it. You've got both an arrow volley and a javelin volley at your disposal. Each are assigned to their own button and have their own cooldown. So essentially what you can do is alternate between your attacks, using one while the other cools down, taking down individual ships in no time. Speaking of individual ships, when confronted with multiple ships to take out at once, focus on one ship at a time. This will be the quickest way to weaken their combined firepower. Tip number 4. Save your upgrade materials for your boat. This is important for 2 reasons. The first is that I mentioned in my last tip, you spend a lot of time on your boat, so it's good to have your naval combat abilities upgraded to be able to deal with the increasingly more difficult enemies. The second reason is, other than spending on your boat, you can also spend your upgrade points on improving your armour, but you want to try and do this as little as possible. Why, I hear you ask? Well, as you play the game, it's constantly giving you better and more powerful armour for free, so why spend your resources on something you're probably going to get in 20 minutes anyway? When I saw the huge amount of metal, leather and wood that I quested, I actually did get sucked into upgrading some items. But when I realised how expensive it's going to get to upgrade the boat, I'm now sitting here wishing I wasn't such a noob. Tip number 3. Think about your actions. This is the first Assassin's Creed game to feature an RPG element of dialogue choices. The outcome of these dialogue choices directly affecting later interactions in the game. Now I'm going to keep this bit short and sweet to avoid any spoilers, but just think about your choices. What could it affect? And how might it affect the future? Tip number 2. Run away and reset. If you've seen my last video on how I defeated the first small boss, the Cyclops, then you know what I'm talking about here. Especially when you're in a large combat situation with an overwhelming number of enemies, it's okay to run away, hide in a bush, and then thin out the enemies' numbers by taking them out one by one. Personally, I've always loved the stealth element of the Assassin's Creed games, so any opportunity I can to bring it back to this, I'm going to do so. Tip number 1. Spend a few points around, not just on one skill tree. This goes against what I'd normally recommend for pretty much every other game. The reason I'd usually recommend sticking to one skill tree is that the most powerful skills are near the end of the skill tree, and this is still true with this game. However, the game puts barriers in place to prevent you from purchasing higher skills in the skill tree. This can either be a level requirement, or it might even just say you need to progress further in the story. So I was initially religiously sticking to spending skill points in the assassin skill tree. This is obviously great for stealth situations, but there are times when the game throws you into combat situations you just can't avoid. An example of this is the big regional battles that take place in every region between the controlling faction and the challenging faction. So here's me all specced up for stealth, getting my ass handed to me left, right and centre until I realised that actually, rather than waiting until a high level to use my skill points further down the tree, there are some key combat skills you can get early on that can help tip the combat in your favour. The ones that I've purchased to help me out are the Bull Rush ability and the Sparta Kick. There are probably a few of you sitting there thinking, how does this help me? I've already gone down the warrior skill tree. Well, this works both ways. You're still going to be sitting there with spare skill points. You may as well get the Rush Assassination ability on the Assassin skill tree. This is like a super teleport assassination. Or you can even go down the Hunter skill tree and brush up on your bow skills. Having said all this, although it's great to have some early key abilities to help early on, it's important to specialise in one skill tree mainly, as your armour and weapon choices and engravings have powers and effects that will greatly improve your effectiveness in that specialisation. Well guys, that's my top 5 tips for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. As usual, if you've got any great tips, please whack them in the comment section below. Please drop me a like if you found this useful, and if you want to see more videos like this one, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, peace out.